We are from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Some of us don't exactly live in Albuquerque. I actually live in Gallup and I go to school in Albuquerque. Dustin here, he works in Santa Fe, and he comes to Albuquerque to attend school. James over here, he's from Albuquerque. So we kind of travel to go to school. So we're all trying to be surveyors. Anyways, this is our team. We weren't all able to make it, only a couple of us. So with that, we'll get started with our presentation. The goal that we set for the 2016 NSPS team project was to perform a boundary survey and a topographic survey on the site that is approximately 11 acres and located in Los Dos subdivision. This subdivision is located roughly 50 miles northwest of Santa Fe, New Mexico, which is our capital. In order to achieve this goal, many tasks must be accomplished before we can begin the actual survey. Okay, here we got a picture of the entrance to the subdivision, and we kind of got a site map of everything. And the site map actually comes from our plats. Okay, and our equipment and our tools. We use GPS. We were lucky enough that we didn't have to pull out a total station. So everything that we got was from our GPS. And Dustin actually provided the GPS. This is our team. Kind of odd bunch of guys, I guess. We made it work. Here we're setting up our GPS. We found rebar on site, so we made that our control point. First, we must coordinate with the landowner and obtain his or her permission to conduct our survey on the property. Next, we must conduct our research of the property and the surrounding properties. There are several methods our team can use to research the property. We made a trip to the client clerk's office and printed copies and recorded documents. We used the local websites to get some of our documentation. The city of Santa Fe has a GIS site, right? So we got some of our documents from there. We also looked on, we got some GLO records, and we contacted one of his friends who owned a piece of property around there. Okay, the next thing we actually did was do the actual field work. So we went out there. We started in November. We actually made an hour trip up to the site. We went out there about 4 times.
3 times.
3 times. We were out there all day. We started about 8 o'clock. We didn't get out of there until 5 or 6. So a good 4 days of field work, and we worked on it for, I guess, weeks until a couple weeks ago. Here we are searching and collecting data. Someone forgot to bring the shovel, so we had to make do with this little shovel we got there. But it worked out. And we didn't have too many obstructions, but there were some trees around the area, so we did have to raise our rod. But other than that, we got through the site pretty well. Here's Dustin digging the little shovel. Collecting our data. And I always found this odd. A $250 fine. Who's gonna come find it, right? 2 reference plots that we found. And all the Google pools that were set by Ramsey, we found them all. So we were lucky enough to find all the Google pools that were set by the gentleman, by the surveyors, it said. Crucial notes. Basis of bearing. NAD 83, New Mexico Central Zone. All our distances of ground. Our elevations were based off NAD 88, and those were derived from GPS observations. Our site is not in a flood zone, so just wanted to point that out. Very small probability of flooding. here's kind of a area of our site. And the little red circle there, that's where we are. And the flood zone is actually pretty far, it's pretty northwest of our site, so there's no discrepancies with that. It's just a blow up of the FEMA map. Okay, this is our principal meridian. John W. Garrison established this meridian back in 1855. And the New Mexico meridian and baseline provided the basis for a township and range. Okay, here's another image off Google Earth, our section down there. This would be a good time to use the laser pointer. Oh, there we go. There we go. That's our area, section 30. Okay, and this is one of the reference plots that we got. Where did we find this at?
In my subdivision plat drawer.
Okay, all right. Justin got the drawer full of maps. Okay, there's our area right there. With all the adjacent properties. And this is the survey of some of the properties to the north. And everything that was noted in this map, all the Google pools, we found them. Okay. Other important research, we dug up a USGS quad sheet, we got US land patent, we got a fractional township map, and the Tesuque Pueblo grant. Okay, these are USGS quad sheet. It's titled Horcado Ranch. I'm not too exactly sure if I pronounced that right. This was interesting. I thought this was great. Found a land patent. I just want to read off what I have included here. Certificate of Registered Land Office at Santa Fe, New Mexico, has been deposited in the General Land Office, whereby it appears that, pursuant to the Act of Congress of May 20th, 1862, to secure homestead to actual settlers on the public domain, and acts of supplemental thereto and claim of the said person. And this was signed by Franklin D. Roosevelt in 1935. And it was a patent of a grant of 633 plus or minus acres of land to Adelina Otero Warren. It's a fractional township map. And this one was traced in, I think, 1914. Oh, sorry, it was traced 1923, I think. The field work was done in 1914. Well, another interesting thing to the north is a Pueblo grant. So I don't know why there's section lines without Pueblo grant. I think those are just projected to kind of show the Pueblo. There's quite a few Pueblos around the area in New Mexico, all private land. Okay. And the scenery here from Los Dos subdivision, Santa Fe, New Mexico. It's a pretty nice area. If you want to build a house out there, you guys should go to New Mexico. It's really nice. Here on the left, we have Los Alamos. If you guys are familiar with that place, it kind of glows at night. People about 8 feet tall walking around. Not a lot of people live up there, that's for sure. What we found all the original number 5 rebars with aluminum caps stamped cool and pools. We found 2 additional adjoining property corners, and 1 corner we actually found to be short of record distance.
So these are just slides of basically what we found. I'm sure you're all familiar with the capped rebars, just pictures of what's going on. Here's something that we found next to our site, excuse me, that we weren't expecting to find. I don't know if you all can see it, but those are petroglyphs carved out into a big rock outcrop in the adjoining property to us. There was several of them, maybe 15, 20, really interesting site there. The site is now a park, so I believe when they created this subdivision, they went out there and found those and thought, well, it would be a shame if we let somebody build $1 million home on top of all this history. So that is actually to the lot to the west of us. Okay, so here we're putting it all together. We went out, thankfully our site was, with the exception of the terrain, our site was actually fairly easy because it was in a subdivided area. We didn't have to do a lot of research like the team before us did. It was basically one plat, subdivision plat, and the adjoiners to the north of us had a new boundary survey on it. And that's really all we had to look for. So that there is the slide of our tin surface to create the topo. That's our actual drawing. You guys won't be able to see it back on the poster board. And the finished product we have is our cover page with just a few of the restrictive covenants. Went down to the county and got a hold of all the restrictive covenants for the project. I thought this would be important to include, being that our approach to the project was to hand it off to an architect or builder so they could develop the site. So we went through and picked out a few of the important restrictive covenants that we thought would be important for somebody like that. And here is our final drawing. It was a nice site, a lot of relief. We have the boundary survey, topographic survey, spot elevations. We've got a tie to the north, which is on the south boundary of the Tasuki Pueblo grant. That was an easy brass cap to find. What we also did was we decided to include a slope analysis for the builders or architects, anybody who might be interested in that. So as you can see by some of those dark spots, there's a little bit of this area that's over 30%, and quite a bit of it is actually 20 to 30%. So even though the site is 11 acres, it only has a couple of spots that would be ideal for a building site. I don't know if you can all see, but around the entire perimeter of the property, there's a 100-foot building setback. So that also really limits your building area. But the one building site kind of up in the top center, it's really nice. You have views of the Jemez Mountains, probably the Sangre de Cristos to the east, and on our previous slide on our boundary survey, we've actually included some view angles to the Los Alamos and the Jemez Peak, which I found that a lot of architects ask for when you're out in the field talking to them. They want to know the exact view angle so they can get the windows of their homes situated. So you can look out your window and enjoy a cup of coffee looking at the views. And now we will hand things over to James. He is our GIS guy. He knows what's going on with all of that.
Okay. Now, within CNM, our surveying program falls under the auspices of a higher heading of Geographic Information Technology. Also under that heading is GIS. So what you'll find is a lot of coursework between the two that have courses in common. So we thought it was a good idea to incorporate some of that subject into our work here. As Antonia pointed out earlier, we have several different GIS sources that we were able to reference. City of Santa Fe County, as well as a broad GIS database that falls under the University of New Mexico. Now, one very strong difficulty that we came across is, since this particular region of interest is considerably north of the city of Santa Fe, the GIS data available was very limited because most of it tended to be more within the city limits. But fortunately, the ARGIS reference from the University of New Mexico we found to be very helpful. And the idea was, if we were going to pitch this particular part of land to a prospective buyer, whether it was a real estate investment or perhaps someone who wanted to build a residence there, we thought they'd also want to know if this prospective residence would be in close proximity to some of the interests that you would commonly have as a homeowner. In this case, fire station, medical, hospital, and whatnot. Also, how accessible are the roads? Because despite New Mexico's reputation, up in Santa Fe they do accumulate a considerable amount of snow. Soil types, water wells, etc. For example, we start here. This would, my colleague Charles Funnell was unfortunately not able to join us on this particular venture. Mapped out the closest precise route from our site down to the fire station, so in the event something of that came up, he would certainly have a good sense of how far away help would be. Similarly, here's the shortest route to a hospital, which is in the city of Santa Fe. Here's a good map out of the roads, and here's a raster analysis of that points out the fire danger risk, which in this case, for this property, is next to none. And here's a map of the water wells in that area, because since this is significantly north of town, it's not going to have a huge plumbing system already developed, so you're going to want to know where this kind of thing is. And that pretty much covers the GIS aspects, so I'll turn this back to my colleague Antonio so he can wrap it up.
All right, just a summary. As a whole team, we put together a map to show the right-of-way and to distinguish the boundary lines of our site. We also incorporated GPS data to elaborate on the questions that might arise to a landowner or a site developer. The survey was done following the New Mexico survey standards and include our very best abilities and knowledge. And I also want to point out one last thing, the background. One of us were just taking pictures, and we ended up taking a picture of the ground, and it made a good background for our project. So that would wrap it up, I guess.
Any questions from the judges?
Your 10 looked really extensive. How many points did you take for your tour?
We got a total of 2,000, about 2,100 points, a little over 2,100 points.
All GPS?
Yes, and if you notice, we had 2 sets of equipment. Like we said, we were up there for 3 or 4 days. One of our other team members, he was able to use some GPS equipment. So for one day, he was actually able to go out and collect about 100 points. So we divided up. It would have been nice to do it if he was out there more often, but
And why this particular site? Why did you choose this particular place?
well, I really like the area up there. I thought it would be an interesting site because it's got a lot of relief. It's almost 100 feet from the road up to the top of the lot. So I just think it was a really interesting site. It met all the requirements. I was able to contact the owner, so we got permission. It was just a nice area.
You based everything off of a single control point. Can you talk about any quality control you did to make sure that you had good coordinating for your basis?
Well, the way my equipment works is we can get on the New Mexico State Plane Coordinate System. We connect through the cell phone to the local network. And in this area, because it's so far north of town, we actually set up the base station and we can collect all of our data that way. And then once we were all done, we started a new job with the network, and that way we can transform the coordinates, the local coordinates up to state plane coordinates.
Your map talks about a basis of bearing being one of the parcel lines on the recorded plat, but you're also doing GPS stuff off your state system. Did you align your data to the recorded plat, or is that okay?
We rotated along the it was southbound.
Yeah. Okay. Your slope density map, was that just something that sounded like fun in one of the utility programs, or was that a thing that is for that county or that region of doing slope density studies?
Well, we were just kind of playing around as a team, and in Santa Fe, a lot of architects, they ask for slope analysis, as along with the county, because of the building restrictions. They don't want you building anything over 30%. So we thought it would just be a nice addition to our slideshow.
The last question I have for you, on your cover page, you have all these covenants listed. What was the source of those? Where did those come from?
I pulled them from the Santa Fe County. We went down
That's
there.
your county development work?
County courthouse.
Okay.
You were running, I'm assuming, it looked like the Trimble R8s.
Yes.
So I know that by default, typically it's the ellipsoidal heights that are going to run on GPS. Did you specify orthometric?
No.
Okay. So how did you determine the actual elevations of the ground?
When, with the network, they come down as true as you can possibly get. We've tested it on known benchmarks, and we always check in within less than 500s.
So you were running, so were you running morphometric heights then in the long run?
I don't think so, no.
Okay.
Thank you.